right. All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining me and Rep. Caldwell here on this beautiful day at the State House. I'm Senator Bridget Valverde, and I'm going to say a few words and then hand it over to Rep. Caldwell and then Kevin Boudris from the Conservation Law Foundation. I'd first like to recognize and thank my Senate colleagues for their support today. We have Senator Anderson and Senator Raptakis here with us. Thank you so much for being here. I'd also like to thank all the community members who keep on showing up to protect their communities. We're here today to talk about protecting the health and safety of Rhode Islanders and the health of our environment and planet. The first time paid lobbyists for the plastics industry tried to sell me on pyrolysis was during a Senate Environment and Agriculture hearing in 2019. That day, they told us that they could break down plastics and create fuel using high heat with no visible emissions. They wanted us to believe that it's a magical process, a miracle of alchemy. We can burn plastic, but it's not really burning it because it doesn't use oxygen, and there are no consequences. It was an obvious attempt to make a polluting process seem environmentally sound. It wasn't believable then, and it's not believable now. Facilities that burn waste, plastic or otherwise, emit carbon dioxide and toxins and have no place in our cities and towns. That's why our neighbors, environmental experts, doctors, and scientists have all spoken out against allowing these polluting facilities to be built in our neighborhoods. And that's why Representative Caldwell and I have introduced the High Heat Waste Facilities Act of 2021 to prevent such facilities from setting up shop here in the Ocean State. The plastics industry is rushing to get these facilities built all across the country. They are pushing legislation to allow them to avoid solid waste regulations, allow them to make more money on the plastic products they currently overproduce and take no responsibility for, allow them to distract from the horror of microplastics everywhere. All the while, the true cost of their plastic is borne by the people, our wildlife, and our oceans. They pretend that these facilities will solve our plastic garbage problem. But the truth is that pyrolysis, gasification, whatever you call it, only justifies more production of plastics instead of providing a solution to the root cause. The bottom line is, we need to reduce the amount of waste we produce. And burning the waste we have to mask the problem is never going to be the answer. Just 2 days ago, we approved bills to reduce plastic bags and plastic straw use in our state in the Senate. Rhode Island is moving in the right direction on plastics, and we can't take steps backward in this fight. Senate Bill 527 is being heard in the Judiciary Committee this evening. I encourage everyone to contact their senator and representative and ask them to support Senate Bill 527, the High Heat Waste Facilities Act, and House Bill 5923. I once again thank my colleagues here for co-sponsoring the bill and urge my other colleagues in the Senate to support it as well. And now let's hear from Rep. Caldwell.
Thank you, Senator. I'd like to also thank all of my colleagues in the House of Representatives for joining us today. I have Representatives Morales and Potter and Chairman Bennett, Representative, of course, Chairwoman Pat Serpa, who is my partner in this fight, and Representatives Court Friend and Representatives McEntee. And also we were just joined while Bridget was speaking by Chairwoman Dawn Oyer. So thank you all. And there's Representative Liana Kassar. So thank you all for being with us today. And of course, I have to thank the advocates and community members who have been working tirelessly to protect our neighborhood and our state from toxic high heat waste facilities. The danger and toxicity of high heat waste facilities became evident to me when a company called MedRecycler decided it wanted to set up shop on the border of West Warwick and East Greenwich, behind a daycare and across from a residential neighborhood. Despite vigorous objections from residents, business owners, and municipal abutters, MedRecycler has pushed forward in their desire to bring this untested technology to our neighborhood. But the reality is, tomorrow it could be your neighborhood. We are steps away from becoming a destination for other people's trash. Once the door is open in Rhode Island to one of these facilities, we know what comes next. MedRecycler's proposal is built on falsehoods, and they continue to try to mislead our colleagues and the public, and we can't let them do that, so let's set the record straight. Even their name is an attempt to mislead. Burning something is not recycling. MedRecycler says they're not burning medical waste because the process is anaerobic, but using chemical jargon doesn't change the underlying facts. They want to use high temperatures, and their waste would produce tar, ash, and other potentially toxic byproducts. Call it what you want in a chemistry class, but that's burning. It is certainly not recycling. The energy produced by facilities like MedRecycler is not renewable. They create toxic emissions. Allowing them to operate in our state would fly in the face of Rhode Island's recent Act on Climate law. It would make it more difficult to achieve our climate goals. MedRecycler's facility would expose its employees to dangers in their workplace, along with exposing residents to those dangers. These are not green jobs, as MedRecycler claims. Rhode Island needs 21st century jobs and clean energy, not jobs that put workers and neighbors at risk. MedRecycler will not take any pressure off of our landfill, and we can't let them get away with saying so. They admit that what they want to do is bring out-of-state waste into Rhode Island. They're hoping to bring 70 tons of medical waste per day from somewhere else. This potentially dangerous waste isn't even here, so it's not ending up in our landfill. Rhode Islanders do not want our state to be a destination for other people's contaminated trash. People in my district see right through these distortions. Not a single resident in my district has reached out in favor of this facility, and hundreds of people from across the political spectrum and from every conceivable background have contacted me, asking me how they can help stop because they think it's a bad idea. The only people who seem to think it's a good idea are the ones that stand to make money off it. MedRecycler's investors, others who want to make money off the same idea, and their expensive lobbyists. The rest of us see right through it. Rhode Island is a small state. What happens in one of our cities or towns affects the others directly. And allowing these risky facilities to set up shop here means the next one is coming to your neighborhood. We want people to come to Rhode Island to enjoy our beaches, our natural beauty, and our wonderful culture and dining opportunities. We don't want them to come here to bring their toxic trash. So I thank you all again for your support and my colleagues in the House and in the Senate. And I'm pleased to welcome Kevin Boudris, who is the staff attorney from the Conservation Law Foundation.
Thank you, Representative Caldwell and Senator Valverde, and all of the representatives and senators here today, and for the tireless community activists that are joining us here today as well. My name is Kevin Boudris, and I work with Conservation Law Foundation. Burning waste is toxic and climate damaging. It doesn't matter whether you call it incineration, or gasification, or pyrolysis, or so-called advanced recycling. And it doesn't matter whether you're burning household waste, or medical waste, or plastics. It is time to shut Rhode Island's doors once and for all to any type of facility that burns waste or turns waste into fuel. Rhode Island has a long-standing policy against waste incineration, and for good reason. Anytime you burn waste, you generate climate-damaging gases like carbon dioxide and dangerous toxic pollutants like lead, mercury, and forever chemicals. Supposedly new technologies like pyrolysis and so-called advanced recycling are no exception. And most often, the facilities that burn waste are built in low-income communities and communities of color, perpetuating a legacy of injustice and environmental racism that comes with burning waste. Yet time and time again, we've seen outside interests try to push waste burning on Rhode Islanders. As you heard from Representative Caldwell, right now a company called MedRecycler is trying to burn 70 tons of medical waste per day in West Warwick. They want to take medical waste, up to 85% of which could be diverted and or recycled, and turned it into fuel, tars, oils, ash, and char, and they want to burn all of those materials on site in West Warwick. This is not green, and this does not generate renewable energy. All the while, as we heard from Senator Valverde, plastics and petrochemical industry groups are pushing Rhode Island to make it easier to build so-called advanced recycling facilities that burn plastics. These industry groups say that these technologies will reduce plastic waste, but their true motivations are transparent. They want to produce and burn as much plastic as possible to make money at the expense of our climate and at the expense of the health and safety of states that roll out the welcome mat. Not here, not Rhode Island. The bills introduced by Representative Caldwell and Senator Valverde will permanently shut Rhode Island's doors to any type of high heat waste burning. The City of Providence has already taken action on this issue and banned these kinds of facilities. These bills would simply bring the rest of Rhode Island along and up to speed with Providence. Keeping these facilities out of our state is directly in line with our new Act on Climate. And we have the tools at our fingertips right now to significantly reduce and divert waste without having to make a false choice between burning waste and burying waste. Many of these solutions are under consideration in the General Assembly as we speak. Single-use plastics bans, food waste diversion, better recycling and reuse through bottle bills and extended producer responsibility. These are the real solutions to our waste crisis. Burning waste is not and never has been the solution to the waste crisis. There is no place for burning waste in Rhode Island. Conservation Law Foundation is grateful to Representative Caldwell and Senator Valverde for their leadership on this issue, and we urge the General Assembly to protect Rhode Islanders, our future generations, and our climate. Thank you so much.
All right, so that concludes our speaking portion, but if anybody has any questions, we'd be happy to field them.
Hi, Mary Therese Patch, Rhode Island. Would this legislation affect the Med Recycler, the proposed Med Recycler project?
Yes, the Med Recycler has not been granted its solid waste license by DEM yet. So if this bill is passed and signed into law in the near future, it could prevent this facility from opening. Yeah.
Ellen was not there. Say that it could. Is that setting you up for a lawsuit then? If it's legislation targeted to one business?
So this legislation is not targeted to one business. It is targeted to all future facilities of this kind that could open their doors in Rhode Island.
Both you and Kevin mentioned this trying to open up all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
Are there other instances of companies trying to get pyrolysis or different things?
Sure. So there are other companies that are doing pyrolysis. The Med Recycler one in particular is the only one of its kind that could become operational in the United States that would be burning medical waste.
What did you guys mean when you talked about all of company numbers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you want to take that?
So, as I mentioned, industry groups, plastics and petrochemical industry groups have been pushing similar legislation to some legislation that's similar to legislation that we've seen pushed here in Rhode Island that would change solid waste definition so that facilities that are using pyrolysis or gasification on plastics would not be considered solid waste facilities. Those laws have now been passed in more than a dozen states across the country. And after those laws are passed, you see a pattern. I mean, these laws are passed for a reason. Soon after these laws are passed, you have plastics companies, fossil fuel companies like BP, move in and build pyrolysis plants that burn plastics. We've seen this pattern play out in Illinois. We've seen the pattern play out in Georgia, both of which have passed these laws and had pyrolysis facilities open soon thereafter. So these laws that the petrochemical industry is pushing, they are not an academic exercise. They are a real threat to the health and safety of people that live in these states and are forced to live near these types of facilities.
Attorney Peters, could you give us a thumbnail of where we stand in permitting on the state and local levels?
With respect to the MedRecycler facility, so the MedRecycler's license application for its medical waste facility license is currently pending before the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management. There was a comment period on a draft license that was issued. That comment period ended April 14th. DEM now has 90 days from April 14th to make a final decision. So
You spoke about solid waste. You spoke about, there's other permits and things that we need to besides the DEM, right?
So in addition to the DEM permit, they still need their final planning and zoning approvals from the town of West Warwick as well.
Can you elaborate on the town, like the area that they want to build, like how is this going to affect them if it comes to fruition?
Sure. So the place where MedRecycler is trying to open up shop is really inside a business park. It shares a wall with another business who also objects to them opening. Is really right behind a daycare and across from New England Tech in a residential neighborhood. Right a stone's throw away from my house and many other, family homes in East Greenwich.
Did they give you any scale of how much pollution do they create? Like, do they give you results?
Well, part of the issue with MedRecycler's process is that it's really untested technology. So what they want to do is be granted approval and then kind of see what happens. And obviously, that is not acceptable in our community or anybody's community.
Somebody talk to the EPA about this. In 2009, I shut down every medical waste incinerator in the country. 40 CFR 60.3. In the permit that was issued from the DEM, they referenced EPA regulations in 40 CFR. Incinerators, they need federal approval. I don't have any idea what you guys are thinking about that. To me, it's a no-brainer. Anybody talk to the EPA or this facility does need permitting from the EPA? Does it right there from the DEM's permit?
Yeah, I can't speak to the EPA. The DEM says that they have the permitting authority on this. So it's a question that would have to be directed to DEM.
I read the permit.
Mm-hmm.
It's subject to EPA 40 CFR 55C.
Great. We will ask DEM about it. Thank you.
No, I'm good with this.
Great. All right. Are there any other questions? Yeah.
Where the trash is coming from, waste will be coming from, you guys hinted that most of it will be coming from out of state. Do you actually know that at this point?
And we just know that their permit says that they will be bringing medical waste from probably around the rest of New England. That's it. Thank you everyone for coming today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.